Good evening. Welcome at AmsterdamPHP. Well, let me tell you something about me. This is the boring part. I'm Jelrik. I'm a Dutch PHP developer. I work at a company called Ingewikkeld, which is owned by Scoop, Stefan Koopmanschap. Most of you might know him. And for anything dirty you want to say about me, I'm Jelrik VH on Twitter. So please include me in the loop so I can have a laugh as well. I hear the big honky thing in the back has stopped making its noise, so I hope you can all hear me. If at any point you may not be able to hear me, please shout so I can put up my volume. Let me tell you about my message. My message of today is very simple. It's Vagrant is cool. That's the whole point. So you can all go now, I think, and it's done. Oh, it was 45 minutes, not seconds. Yes. Oh, okay, sorry. Well, Vagrant. I'm getting to what Vagrant is, but let me first tell you a personal story. I started my professional PHP career about 6 years ago at a company that had 3 big web applications running. The first one was running PHP 4.1, and the second one was running 4.4, and the third one was really modern, I know, 5.0. So, the first days of my work there, I was frantically trying to set up my development computer to run all these applications, all the different versions of PHP. Well, many of you may know what I'm talking about. It wasn't really working, so I skipped the 4.1. I just did that live on production. Well, we all did at some point. Then I only had 2 versions of PHP to get running, and it wasn't ideal. And I'm not even talking about the different MySQL versions or what have we got, the different operating systems the servers were running. Well, it was a nightmare. And I think you're still with me with this kind of story. And then, about a year later, my boss decided to hire a colleague for me. And the whole thing started all over again. And double this time, because we all had to sync it in some way. And he was running Mac, I was running Windows, or the other way around. And, well, just try it. Most of you did, I think. I'm still quite sure most of you can relate to that. One big step we took was a virtual machine. A virtual machine for every project one, to have everything that the project needed to run contained within the virtual machine. Well, it was a big step forward, but we're not there yet. The main problem was whenever we tried to update some library we used or some package or whatever, there was still a problem. I had to do it, he had to do it in his own box, or we had to redistribute the box to each other. Well, it was still a nightmare. These boxes are big, like 2-4 gigabyte or something. You don't want to do that every week if you update something. So it was still a problem. It was a big step forward. Well, in 2010, this guy, Mitchell Hashimoto, I think he's from Japan, but the name sounds somewhat Japanese. Somewhat. He thought of a way to get rid of all this, and he called it Vagrant. Vagrant, and there was much rejoicing. I don't know if people get the reference, but it's Monty Python. It's when the bards of Sir Robin were killed, and there was much rejoicing. Oh well. I heard they were coming together again. Today was a press conference, I think, so yay. Well, Vagrant, and there was much rejoicing. Vagrant is basically an abstraction layer between your virtualization platform and you. The virtualization platform, well, we all know the kinds of, we have VirtualBox. Ooh, I have a laser pointer, sorry. And VMware, and well, most other, these are the most used, I think. I use VirtualBox because it's free and VMware is not. So the thing Vagrant does is really quite simple. It uses a text configuration to build you a virtual machine. So you don't need to distribute the whole box, the 4 gigabytes of the export. Just distribute a text file. Text file, not this text file. It's just random code. You don't need to read that. But the cool thing is you can include the text file in your version control, for example. So whenever checking out the code, you have the configuration for your virtual machine along with it in just a few kilobytes of text. And everyone has the same, yeah, really don't read it. I see some of you, really, I don't even know what it does, so. But you always have the same version of your configuration for your virtual machine, and so the same virtual machine for every developer. And that really makes sense. You don't have to do any kind of weird stuff to distribute the box to everyone. Well, the installation is quite simple. You install a virtualization platform, which is VirtualBox in my case, and Vagrant, and they both have websites, and they're both in Aptitude and Yum and wherever, whatever local package manager you are using. So you can just click and install for Windows and Mac and do something geeky for Linux and other Unix-based systems. And well, that's the only thing you need for your first VirtualBox. So let's see. You first need to have a configuration file. The configuration file is called, surprise, surprise, a Vagrant file. And you can create it by running this command. Well, you first cd into your project, of course, but the real cool thing is the Vagrant init command. The Vagrant init does exactly what it promises. It initializes a Vagrant box for you. And it takes 2 parameters. The 2 parameters are basically telling Vagrant which base box to use. A base box is a bare virtual machine containing only an operating system and some basic network thingies to let you access the box, which may come in handy if you want to do anything with it. So that's included there. I chose the Wheezy box, Wheezy 64-bit. It's some Ubuntu version. And what you basically do is tell Vagrant where to find the box, so it can download it. I think this is 200 MB, I think, and it caches it for later use. And it stores it under the key Wheezy64. So if you use another box with the same base box, it recognizes that it should use this one and not download it again. There are lots and lots and lots of precompiled boxes for you. You don't need to build your own box to start. This is fine. There are CentOS boxes. There are all kinds of boxes. I think there are even Windows boxes distributed freely. I don't know. I think they're not genuine or just evaluation copies, but there are Windows boxes as well. And, well, you can just Google and you'll find it. There's one website. The website is, I think I included it in the slides. Yes, vagrantbox.es. And just go there and find your base box. The thing when you run Vagrant init, it just says a Vagrant file has been placed in your in the directory. Well, fine, that's what I asked you to do. So, thanks, I think. And that's when you're ready to put up your first virtual machine using Vagrant. But first let us have a look at the Vagrant file. The Vagrant file is the first default version of Vagrant file is kind of long with lots of comments and all kinds of stuff you don't need for your first box. So I shortened it a bit, and it looks like this, which is really kind of easy. The first thing is exactly what you told it, where to find the base box you want to use and what to call it. And the second line, the third line really, is exactly what it says. It forwards a port from your host machine. So if you go into your browser and type localhost 8080, it will serve you from the port 80 from the virtual machine. And it gives the box a IP address, which I carefully handpicked at 4242, of course. And the last thing is what makes Vagrant the cool thing that it is. It mounts your current folder, which is the dot, of course, onto the virtual machine. So you have your code on your local machine, which you can access without firing up any virtual machine or whatever. You can just access your code using your IDE or whatever you use to do that. And when you want to test it, you go to the virtual machine. You just use your host file or something to get a host name to this IP address, and it will run from your virtual machine. Everything that's needed to run your application, so PHP, MySQL, whatever, Apache, Nginx, whatever you will be using, will run inside the Vagrant box. I think, I have PHP installed on my laptop, but I don't know which version. I never use it. It's all inside the virtual machines. So MySQL, I don't think I have it installed on my virtual machine. Apache, no way. I don't need it. It's all in the virtual machine. And that's all possible because of these mounts. It just makes the code you have and the local code you have live available from your virtual machine. And that's kind of the basic thing about Vagrant that makes it so cool. When we've configured this, it's easy. We just do Vagrant up, and it will bring the box up. And it will tell us what it's doing. The first time it will tell us it couldn't find the Wheezy box. Well, of course, we just installed it. So it's downloading it. We'll skip that if it's the second time. And it's added for later use. And this is the next part. Next part just tells us what it does. It sets some networking stuff. It forwards the ports we asked for. We boot the VM. And finally, it mounts the shared folder. And that's it. Now there's a virtual machine, which you can use for the development and for the running of your application without needing your own computer, really. You don't need any stuff I wouldn't want on my laptop, or if I have projects in all kinds of PHP versions or MySQL versions, or I need some kinky version of ImageMagick or whatever to run the application. It's just inside the box, not on your machine. Other applications have no knowledge of it. It's just in the virtual machine. And when you SSH to the Vagrant machine, you just type Vagrant SSH. It knows, the default username password combo is Vagrant, so you can use SSH itself, but it's just Vagrant SSH, much simpler. And well, if you cd to /vagrant there, your code will be there, just the same. It's not updated every 5 seconds or something. It's just live there. It's a mount, just like some external hard drive I would connect to my laptop. We have Vagrant halt if you want to halt the machine, so just stop it. Vagrant reload does the halt and up, so it halts it and it brings it up again. May come in handy if you change something in the Vagrant file and want to do the port forwarding stuff again. Vagrant up and a Vagrant destroy if you want to get rid of your box completely. So if you want to clean up some disk space or build the box anew, something like that. And that's what Vagrant does for you. It can do lots more, but this is the basic stuff. The only problem is, and well, it's a bit empty. There is nothing in the box without, well, save some operating system and networking stuff I told you earlier, and the mount. And Puppet is a really cool tool to make sure everything you need is inside the Vagrant box and will be there. You just define it using a configuration file again, just text, just in your repository. To tell Vagrant, to tell your virtual machine what it should look like after the Puppet run. After you run Puppet, it will look like this and this and this and this. You just define what you want your box to look like, and Puppet will make sure it does look like that. You may know Puppet from the DevOps world. It's a tool to manage your server park, and that's what the DevOps do with it. They just deploy large arrays of servers, and they do all kind of grown-up-y things with it. But the fun thing is, we simple script kiddies can use our Vagrant box, or our Vagrant can use Puppet to do the same thing to Vagrant. We just have one server for now. Vagrant can do more, but well, for now it's just one, and we can do that with Puppet. And what we do with it is exactly the same as the as the DevOps people, only for one server. And yeah, it's as simple as that. We call Puppet a provisioner for Vagrant. Vagrant supports a lot of provisioners, such as Chef. You might know the Chef Solo. It can do basically the same as Puppet, but it just uses another syntax. So Puppet is the first thing I encountered, so it's easiest for me to tell you something using Puppet. You can even use shell scripting, and well, I have to, especially here at AmsterdamPHP, include another provisioner. I promised some anonymous PHP Amsterdam guy, I don't know if you know him, to include Ansible as well. He's kind of happy with it, I think, and he promised me to be here and sit in the back with a sign that said, "Puppet kills kittens," but I don't see anyone, so I think he finally found out I was right. But back to Puppet. Pascal has something to say in the matter as well? Okay, fair enough. Yeah, you can still make the sign before the end of the talk, I think. I think I have 20 more minutes, so yeah. Okay, back to Puppet. What we're going to do is set up is seeing some basic stuff to set up a LAMP stack. I'm not going to show you a step-by-step how to do it. That would be far too short in this set of time. I know there's a tutorial next Saturday, not coming, but the next one in Amersfoort. If you want to learn something about Vagrant, it's a 3-hour tutorial, so go there. It will take you, yeah, I organized that stuff, so it's, well, let's have some Puppet. The first thing we have to do is make a place for our Puppet manifests. The config files are called manifests to live. We call the directory Puppet/manifests. Well, fine. We have to tell Vagrant about Puppet, because Vagrant will make sure the provisioners will run. We just include we have a VM, we want to provision it with Puppet, and do Puppet. Yeah, it's just Ruby. Don't freak out, or do if you want, because it's Ruby. Yeah, That's exactly the reaction I was looking for, Jacob. Thank you. We just tell Puppet there is a manifest directory and we have a base node .pp. That's just the name. It's the first node that we're provisioning. And well, this is what your first Puppet script could look like. The first part, yeah, it's still Ruby, so sorry. I can't do anything about it. You can also use shell scripting and Ansible, Pascal. You can use Ansible. Go to that guy there. I have a laser pointer and I like it. No? Okay. This is what your first Puppet manifest could look like. The first thing you do is set some path, so you don't have to include the whole absolute path for every command you type in. So this makes sense. And well, the really interesting part are the three things below. The packages. We zoom into just the Apache one, just one of them. What we're doing here is invoking a type. Package is called a type, and there are lots of types in Puppet. We have a file type to do something with, surprise, files. But we're looking at the package one here, and the package tells Puppet to whatever operating system it's using, do a install for Apache 2. Whatever package manager you're using on that system, so it may be Yum or on Ubuntu, Aptitude or Debian systems, or it does Windows as well. I don't know what it exactly does at Windows, but it does something. And this type invocation has a name. The name is Apache, Apache 2. It will install that package. And we have some parameters. The parameter here is the ensure parameter. The ensure parameter, well, I want, as I said, the package Apache to be present after the Puppet run. So you don't tell Puppet install this package. You tell Puppet I want to have Apache installed after you finished. So that's exactly what it does. It doesn't do anything if Apache is already installed. So this is another example of a type, a file type. As I mentioned before, the thing we do here is configure a vhost. We have Apache installed, so we want to do something with it. The thing we want to do is serve a vhost. We set an ensure parameter. The ensure parameter tells us the file has to be present again. And which file? Well, the file at path. We want this to be its owner, group, and mode. And if it doesn't exist, it should take the file's vhost template file and put it on the path. The replace parameter just tells us it shouldn't touch the file if it already exists. And well, this kind of gets me to the next point, to dependencies between invocations. We only want this to run if Apache is already installed. If Apache has been installed first, because it wouldn't make sense, the directory wouldn't exist, and all kinds of stuff. The commands are not executed in order of their declaration. Puppet takes everything together and makes his own dependency tree, and well, you can influence that dependency tree by adding the require or notify parameters. We want package Apache 2 to be executed before this file can be created. And we want to notify Apache afterwards because we want to restart Apache. And these are all high-level parameters. The notify thing can be applied to other things than services as well. You can just define what it will do. The service Apache 2 will just be aware of, oh, I'm notified, and then it will know to restart. That's some basic stuff, but is it the way to go? No, I don't think so. It's a bit of a problem. We have to know too much. You saw we have to know the package name, Apache 2, which is the Ubuntu, the aptitude name. But if we're on CentOS, it will probably be something else. We have to know what the user for the vhost file should be. We should know where the vhost file has to be. We can use something else for that, and we have some plug-and-play modules. And the plug-and-play modules are a good start. You can write your own modules, and you should, but for a start you can use all kinds of available modules. And there are modules at forge.puppetlabs.com. That's the company behind Puppet. But I use the example 42 modules. They're on GitHub, and they're free, open source. So just use them. All kinds of modules come with copy and paste documentation. Just start and hack and see if it works for you, and write your own modules and tweak the modules you find to find out what works for you and what doesn't, and what you can improve or what you can contribute back to the example 42 modules, for example, because they're on GitHub, so they accept pull requests. And to use modules, we have to tell the Puppet provisioner in Vagrant where to find them. We have a folder, modules. We put the modules in there. We can use all kinds of stuff. After my last presentation at CodeConnex, someone told me I should look into Librarian for Puppet. That's a cool tool that manages all kinds of modules you're using. So you should look into that as well. And let's say we want to install Apache again, but this time in a more flexible way. We make sure the module from example 42 is in our modules Apache directory. Well, it is now. And we can just say class Apache. It will invoke the module, the class inside of the module, and you can specify a version parameter here if you want a specific version of Apache to be installed, so 2.2.4.6, whatever. It will know what package to look for on your operating system. It just maps, what operating system am I using to what package name should I be using. And we can configure a vhost like this. We have a doc root, server name, and we use this as a template. The template is just a basic vhost file with some placeholders, so you can just do this. And there are modules for almost any kind of operation. There are modules to install MySQL and configure users and grants and whatever for them in this kind of fashion. You can install IP tables, NFS, NTP, whatever. There are modules for everything. So just start there and work your way up or down, whatever that might be, to write your own modules, to amend whatever there is. And now we're ready to Vagrant up again. When executing Vagrant up, for the first time, when the box isn't created, Puppet will automatically run along with it. That's changed behavior from a recent version of Vagrant. Before that, it would always run on Vagrant up, but now you'll have to use Vagrant up -- provision if you want to run it every time. It just runs the first time now. And if the box is already up and you just want to provision again, you use Vagrant provision. As I said, the fun thing with this is that it will only do what it needs to get the machine into the desired state. It will not run anything that is already installed. And well, that's it's very short to have an introduction into Puppet, but you really should look into that yourself. I can't give you a full insight in Puppet in, I think, even 3 hours. So I'm going to leave Puppet there and go back to the main question. So why should you be using Vagrant? What I showed you is only a tiny fraction of what Vagrant can do for you. The most important things, I think, why you should be using Vagrant are no more works on my machine, as I like to put it. I've heard that one very often. And since I've been using Vagrant in teams with 8 people or something, 8 developers, it's just... It just disappeared. They're just all on the same machine, so if it happens here, it should happen there as well, and it does. And the fun thing is, well, that's somewhere down the list, you have the right software and nothing more, so you know exactly what's running your application and what could interfere with it. It's just what you install. You can keep your development machine clean. That's what I like about Vagrant. I don't like all kinds of software and different versions and whatever on my machine. It's just inside my virtual machine. And this is what I mentioned before, the power of provisioning. If you get the hang of Puppet or Chef or Ansible, Pascal, or shell scripting even, you can use the same scripts, the same manifests for Puppet, or the same chef recipes, as they're called, appropriately, I think, to have your production servers up and running. So you have not only all the development machines line up, but you can also line up all your other servers, so you know exactly what it's running, and you know exactly what problems you are going to run into. And you don't have the, oh, I still have PHP 5.3 on my development machine, but the production server is already at 0.4 or 0.5. So whatever weird bugs may occur, I don't know. And, well, that's basically the perks of Vagrant for me. And there are, of course, more. The really fun thing is, I did this 2 months ago, I think. You can have multiple machines with Vagrant, so one Vagrant file and multiple machines if you have some kind of worker setup, a web machine that fires off some jobs to a job queue, and then 3 or 4 workers. And, well, sorry to bother you again, but at CodeConnex I talked to you about a setup with 12 external services, and you wanted to know if what would happen if you turned off one of these services, is if the power line was cut off or something. Well, you can emulate that using Vagrant. You just fire up a lot of servers with a lot of virtual servers with Vagrant in the same Vagrant file, and you just turn one off and see what happens. You can do that with Vagrant. I have to, well, this is not really a perk, sorry. Yeah, I know of some people experiencing problems with Vagrant on Windows, but I currently work on a team where half of the people are running Windows and Vagrant. They have it working. It's at NRISE in Amersfoort. They have a really good blog post about Vagrant on Windows, so refer to that if you want to get it running on Windows. It's possible. They do it, so you should be able to do it as well, I think. Yeah, it can be a bit tricky, but it's the virtualization that Windows isn't really made for, I think. And, well, I mentioned it before, there are some changes, some backward compatibility changes in 1.2 to 1.3, which makes no sense versioning-wise. But I don't know, it's there, so please be aware of that. And, yeah, that's all I got. This is the company I work for. I think they're cool. We're cool with 3 of us. And yeah, that's all I got for you. Yeah, this is the last slide. I'm still Jelrik VH on Twitter, so please leave me a note. Or I don't know if there's a joined in page for this event, or just leave it on Meetup. If you, yeah, then it gets to me, and I really like your notes about this talk. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
Is it possible to mock any URLs inside of VirtualBox? I suppose it has such kind of experience. I want to run some maybe tests inside of VirtualBox and to mock the URLs on a VirtualBox layer or on Vagrant layer, I don't know. To mock something.
Okay. I was told to repeat the question, even if you all heard it, because the video didn't hear it. So the question is whether it's possible to mock URLs inside the virtual machine. So if you can reroute something to another machine you want to be using for tests or whatever purposes. Yeah, that's possible. It's just a Unix box that you're running. If you're running some Debian or whatever, you can just change the host file, for example. That's one possibility. Or does that answer your question?
Yeah, probably it could work. Just the thing is that there could be some easier ways. Okay, that's it.
Okay. Any more questions? Yes.
I know you use Puppet to have all the configuration of development and production the same.
Yes.
But how do you do the differences between production installations and local box files? You say you can use every local box file, but it doesn't necessarily represent the production machine.
Yes. You can use the Vagrant file to define a different parameter file, some file with parameters in it to tweak your configuration, so it should install Xdebug, for example, on the Vagrant box, but not on your production machine. That kind of stuff you can arrange within your Vagrant file and set some kind of sorry?
Environment.
Yes, you can set an environment variable like, hey, I'm now in development mode. And read that in Puppet and see, oh, I'm in development mode, let's now install Xdebug, or let's install this or that. Does that answer your question?
Well, not quite.
Yes.
I understand from that you install the production machine with Vagrant also?
No, not with Vagrant. No, sorry.
So if you have a box file which you Puppet and you have a
Yes.
production machine which you install manually,
Yes.
how do you know there are no differences between those two?
You can't. You can't know if you install your production server by hand. You can make sure that that you have everything installed that you think is in your Puppet file. But I'm not sure I really understand your question. I think, as I see. Yeah. Yes.
Also some of the cloud stack.
Yes.
OpenStack, on cloud stack, one of it's OpenStack.
Yes.
Also just provision your live server with Puppet.
Yes.
You can just
That's.
use
You might have like VM configuration in your Vagrant file that might alter the image or
Yeah,
whatever.
but that's only in the Vagrant file. The moment you go live, you only use Puppet.
Yeah. Or.
So that's not an
But
issue.
you can use Vagrant to fire up Amazon Web Services machines, for example. That's possible. But if you don't use any of that cloud stuff, you'll only be using the Puppet files to provision your live servers. And that's, yeah. Okay. Any more questions? Yes.
Also, he
Yes.
created a tool called Packer
Yes.
recently, which you can also then create your own box files.
Mm-hmm.
Have you used that alongside with Vagrant just to sort of automate a lot of the stuff you would use Puppet to set up? Have you provisioned your own boxes using Packer? Do you see it as part of a tool going forward, or part of your tool set?
The question is, the creator of Vagrant, Mitchell Hashimoto, has created a Packer, the Packer tool, to create base boxes and stuff. If I may go short there. I haven't used it before. It sounds really cool, so I'm going to put it on my to-do to read the documentation list. So it might take a while. It's somewhere on a big list. Thank you. Yes?
Just a question for like a best practice.
Yes.
Currently, we're using, we are at our company are using Vagrant to launch our development boxes.
Yes.
And we try to mimic our development box to be as close as possible to the production system.
Mm-hmm.
But our production system is a multi-tier, multi-server, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Is it like a best practice to have your Vagrant file launch like 7 instances just to run that single PHP file, or would you say leave it at that and just have that single instance running as close to as production as possible? I mean, you have like network latency in production, like Amazon, for instance, which you cannot successfully, at least it hasn't, we aren't able to do it, but we can't mimic that totally one-to-one in our development environment. I'm wondering, do you have like any advice concerning those types of situations?
The question is, if you have a multi-tiered production environment, should you use Vagrant to fire up like 7 different virtual machines in your development environment to mimic the situation at production? I think that would be overkill in most of the situations. It really depends on what you're building, but most of the time I think some kind of staging or acceptance server or servers are most probably the location you want to test that, because with Vagrant you're never going to exactly have the same environment you have in production. If you have 7 physical servers running with the network latency you mentioned or whatever else may be there, you are never going to get that in whatever virtualization platform you're using. So you can get really close to your production environment, as in the intra-server setup, but I don't think it would make sense to fire up 7 or whatever number of boxes in your development environment. That's what I would do. Okay? Any other questions? Yes?
As I understand, every time you shut down your VirtualBox, you will lose everything that you have done manually inside it. For example, if I configure manually some software on my VirtualBox and then shut down using Vagrant Halt, I will lose all my changes next time I will use Vagrant Halt. Am I right?
The question is, if you shut down the Vagrant box using Vagrant Halt, will you lose everything you did manually, so outside of a provisioner? No, that's not true. When you use Halt, it just shuts down the machine, and it will not change anything on that machine. It will be the same as you left it before you typed Halt. When you type destroy, it will destroy the machine and build it up from scratch if you type up again. But so no, that's not the point. what Puppet does is install all kinds of software, whatever, mutates some files or whatever you tell it to do, and then leaves it there.
So let's say I need to configure something manually in my virtual box.
Yes.
What is the best practice to move these changes to either Vagrant file or Puppet files?
Okay. The question is, if I have to configure something manually, what's the best way to get it into a Puppet or Vagrant file? Well, it should be in the Puppet, in the provisioner, whatever provisioner you're using. And it really depends on what you're changing. If you're changing some kind of, for example, a configuration setting in PHP.ini, you can do that with Puppet. There's a tool in Puppet, a class in Puppet called Augeas, which is especially written to mutate configuration values in all kinds of configuration files. So it really depends on what you're doing. The main thing is you shouldn't be manually doing things inside your virtual machine, because Puppet or a provisioner.
First time when you try to
Yes.
install something new, you
Yeah.
usually do it manually, and
Yes.
then you are trying to
Yeah. Yeah.
create the same workflow but with
Yeah.
Puppet.
It really depends on what you're doing. Puppet can do everything you can do.
I find it like being TDD, test-driven development. At first, you develop something manually and write tests later. But when you progress, when you have knowledge in Puppet or Ansible, then you turn it around. First, make it in Ansible. That's what I would do. And then try if it works. Just provision your bucket. It doesn't work. Change my Ansible provisioning. Provision again. Try if it works. So I'm not even doing it manually anymore. I'm just using my provisioner to test it every time again.
But I think it will take more time. Wait.
Yeah, in the beginning it takes more time, but as you progress and know your provisioning tool better, it's just as easy.
Yeah. The only thing that would take more time is the run of the provisioner instead of typing it manually. But that's if there's just one thing that it needs to change, it will only take like 5 seconds or 10 seconds or something to run, because it doesn't do anything that isn't necessary. So I hope that answers your question. Sorry?
Suspending the machine.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
These box files, are they
Yes.
specific for the virtual box? I think you would use VMware as a virtualizer.
Yes.
Then you have different files for that.
Yes. The base boxes, yes. Yes, sorry, to repeat the question for the camera. If you use base boxes, are they specific to a virtualization platform? And yes, they are.
Is there any reverse engineering possible for either Vagrant or Puppet? Or like I have an existing
box and okay, let me yeah, yes. Let me repeat the question. Is there any kind of reverse engineering tool for creating Puppet files from existing boxes or something? I think there are a lot of system administrators and DevOps people wanting to kiss you if you find something like that. So I don't know of any, but there might be some basic tools that do exactly that. I'm not.
Most package managers on Linux are able to generate a list of installed packages. So that's starting point. And then you have to configuration.
Yes.
But it's make a diff what you changed and only what you did change and how old the legacy configuration is. And that was crap itself on the server. Right.
Yes. So no, I don't think so. Sorry. No, not yet. Okay. Keep that guy in mind. I think he might become rich.
Are we watching your GitHub?
Yes. It will be open sourced, right? Okay, if there are no more questions, I won't be any longer. There are, I think, some raffle things to do. I'm not the one holding you back from the pizzas. He is, so don't blame me.
So give him a hand.